everyone. How's everybody doing? I'm Megha. I'm the biology IIT here in Ask IITians as in your biology teacher. And I'm so very happy to see you people. Okay. I mean, not that I can see you. I'm kidding. Anyway, so today we'll be starting with a new chapter. The chapter is conservation of plants and animals. Since you guys are the generation Z, it's quite important for you people to understand that the conservation on plants and animals is extremely important in order to have our planet survive for a longer period of time and with us and nature existing and coexisting harmoniously and peacefully, right? So we'll be learning about a few things here and there in this particular chapter about the nature and the conservation of plants and animals, right? Now, moving forward, we'll be discussing a lot of topics in this particular chapter. Actually, we'll be discussing a lot of things in this particular chapter. Okay. Overall, we'll be learning about what is diversity, biodiversity, deforestation, the topics related to deforestation, such as the causes or the different kind of, consequences of deforestations. Apart from that, how can we conserve the forest and the wildlife? What steps could be undertaken by the people or the government? Apart from that, we'll be learning about the threatened species and the extinct species, endangered species. For that, you need to know what is species. Species is a group of animals which can interbreed among themselves, okay, or which can reproduce among themselves. Apart from that, we'll be learning about a lot of biosphere reserves and stuffs as well, the wildlife sanctuaries and conservations, how exactly these help in the longer run, and what are the ex-situ in situ conservations, okay. We'll be learning a lot more of these topics. But that given, that is like the entire chapter. In this particular class, we'll be learning about these four topics: the biodiversity, deforestation and its causes, consequences, and conservation of forest and wildlife. Now, understand this thing. This is a pro question, which is always there in the exam. The deforestation is a pro question. You'll always be finding this question from this particular chapter, or you'll be asked in 1 mark question, what is biodiversity? Okay. Now we'll do one thing. We'll be moving forward to what actually is biodiversity. Biodiversity is basically a term which is used to describe the enormous variety of life on Earth. Okay, or in simple words, all the life forms which are present on the Earth are counted in the biodiversity. It could start or range from the microorganisms to the plants to the smaller organisms to the bigger elephant-like animals or whales for that matter, and everything. Okay, so all the life on the Earth is counted under the biodiversity, be it the flora, the plants and stuff, and be the fauna, the animals. Okay, now the important thing is that you understand the meaning, you understand the concept of this particular word, and that will help you in taking your marks for a longer run. Okay, like obtaining the marks in the longer run. Now, it could be used to refer all the species in one region or the ecosystem. If we have for one region, those species which are present or restricted to only one region are called as the epidemic species. Epidemic species. Okay. Do not get confused about the words pandemic, epidemic, or the endemic with the diseases. These are the words which have their separate meanings, and these could be associated with these several other words in order to create a terminology or in order to explain the things. Okay, for example, what I said right here is the epidemic species or the endemic species which are restricted to one particular region. Okay, now that being said, we'll be learning about how biodiversity refers to every living thing, including plant, bacteria, animals, and the humans. Okay, for this, we'll be watching a video. Okay. Now, I hope all of you can see this particular screen right here, and we'll be learning about what exactly is the biodiversity. Let me know what you think about it. Okay, not in the comment section down below, but with your teacher. Okay, moving forward with the video.
Biodiversity. Biodiversity is the variety of animals and plants found on this planet, including the geographic locations they are found in. The diversity of species is not evenly distributed throughout the planet because life depends on many factors, including geography. For example, Tropical regions support more life than polar regions. Plants, animals, and climate work together to maintain the balance of nature. They act as nuts, bolts, and oil of a perfectly tuned machine. The pyramid of nature's balance. By
Okay, listen to this. When we are talking about the pyramid of nature's balance, we are talking about how exactly we have different tropic regions. Okay, we basically have the different levels in the pyramid where the organisms will be arranged in the herbivores, carnivores, and then the different scavengers or the decomposers. Okay, like as for this particular pyramid, we basically are trying to say how we have the producers and then we have the users. Okay, with the producers are the organisms such as the plants, which are the autotrophic in nature, which make their own food, and they are later on eaten by the different kind of organisms which are the heterotrophs. Okay, heterotroph are the organisms which basically are dependent upon the different organisms for their food. For example, the rats, they're gonna eat the grains from the crop, and then we have the snakes which will be eating the rats, and then we'll have the eagle which will be eating the snakes. Okay, so it's basically like the herbivore and then carnivore and all of these things going on. Okay, now moving forward.
Biodiversity is important for sustaining life on Earth because it prevents any one species from throwing the balance of nature out of order. Snakes are not a welcome presence in our lives, so we fear them and try to get rid of them. One of the many things that snakes feed on is rats. If we were to kill all the snakes, we would end up having a terrible rat problem.
So you see how different species are codependent on each other and how every single species is helping in maintaining the balance on this particular planet, right? Now moving forward with the video.
Biodiversity means maintaining the balance of nature so that no one thing can become too powerful and therefore bad for everyone else.
Now that is for the video. We'll be moving forward to our PPTs, the slides. Since you understand now what biodiversity is and how different species are helping in maintaining the balance on the planet or what their role is, we'll be moving forward to the next topic, which is the deforestation and its causes. Now, the most important thing right here is that deforestation is the process of destroying the different kind of forest by cutting down the trees. Okay, by cutting down the trees for different purposes, for the, let's say, for the sake of industries making papers, and for the sake of agricultural activities or construction activities, etc., etc. This is the most important questions will show up in your exam for sure. Okay, so listen to this very, very carefully, although you might have learned about this in the 6th standard as well, but we'll be learning this again here. So when we are talking about the deforestation and its causes, most common pressures which cause the deforestation are the agricultural activities, logging, urbanization, deforestation, mining, and forest fire. We'll be learning about these one by one. First of all, what is deforestation that you need to learn? Deforestation is basically the removal of a forest or a large number of trees where the land is thereafter converted into a non-forest use. Okay. So deforestation is the removal of forest or a large number of trees for other uses or to clear the land. Right? I hope this gets to your head. See, the important thing is, since the population is growing, it is very, very important for us to grow the enough amount of food. That is why we'll have to increase the agricultural land, which is a main problem nowadays, because since the population is growing, we also require the place for them to stay, to make houses. So we have to clear a large part of the forest and the trees for the sake of carrying out the agricultural activities and for the sake of urbanization or the construction, which you can see right here in the third cause, construction. Right, on top of that we have the logging is basically converting all the trees into the logs for the sake of industrial use. Okay, next to that we have the mining. There are multiple type of minerals which are found in the core of the earth, like not core but which are found in the earth. Okay, which are found deep into the ground. So in order to access those minerals which are also very important, we have to clear multiple lands of forest. Okay, which if it kind of is allowing us to have the access to the minerals, on the other hand it is also causing us, let's say, it is also causing us to clear the forest, which is a very bad effect for the entire environment, because we are kind of cutting down the lungs of the planet, right? Since trees are responsible for producing the oxygen and absorbing the carbon dioxide, right? Next thing is the forest fire. Now these forest fires are extremely natural, and they occur in the areas which are close to the equator or on the equator because of the high humidity and the high temperature, right? And next is the desertification, right? See, important thing is, since we are clearing the land for the agricultural activities, we are using tons and tons of chemical fertilizers, weedicides, different kind of chemicals for the sake of growing the large amount of food, even though that food is poisonous in multiple sorts of ways. So by using all those chemicals, which are we basically are causing the desertification of the soil, which also in the future leads to the growth of no particular tree or no forest. Okay, so keep that in mind. We have the deforestation and the causes. Now that being covered, we'll be moving forward to what exactly are the consequences of deforestation. Never get confused between the causes of deforestation and the consequences of deforestation, right? Now moving forward to the consequences of deforestation, there are multiple loss of trees, right? The consequences or the cons of the deforestation are the global warming. First of all, why global warming? You should know what is a global warming first. Okay, global warming is the phenomena where the temperature of earth is rising because of increasing of the carbon dioxide gas, which entraps the heat of sun. Okay, now what really is happening, since there's a lot of increase in the carbon dioxide gas because we are cutting down a lot of trees, the global warming is happening because more the carbon dioxide, more the entrapment of the sun heat. Apart from that, we have the pollution. Now it's quite obvious that pollution for us is what? Carbon dioxide, which is causing breathing problems for us or several diseases for us. Okay, now that pollution is also caused because we do not have trees to absorb that carbon dioxide from the environment, right? Next thing is the drought. Understand one thing, trees are responsible for the transpiration. What is transpiration? Transpiration is the phenomena where the excess water from the tree is lost from the stomatal pore in the form of the water vapors. Okay, that is transpiration. Now, that transpiration helps in the formation of clouds, and that transpiration can only occur if there are a number of trees. For example, on the equator, or let's say if we talk about the Amazon forest, there's like plenty of rainfall there. Why? Because there are a lot of trees, and those trees transpire, right? And if there is no tree, there's no transpiration, there's no cloud formation, and hence no rain. Right? All of you have learned about the water cycle. I hope you understand this. Next is the desertification. Now, desertification can also be a cause and a consequence simultaneously. How? Because desertification basically is caused when a lot of chemical fertilizers are used. On top of that, desertification happens when a lot of trees are cut from a particular area. Now the roots of that particular tree won't be available in order to hold the soil if it is cut, right? So no holding of topsoil, which is the most fertile layer of the soil. So nobody or no root is holding that top fertile layer of the soil. What will happen? It will run off with the rainwater, it will erode with the air. So that soil erosion will ultimately lead to what? Desertification. Next, we have the animal and plant life affected. If we're destroying somebody's home, they're going to die. Okay, because they are not as well developed in the brain area as we are, and they cannot manipulate their surroundings like we did, right? So human beings, we can manipulate and we are present on top of the food chain right now, but the rest of the animals are not. And if you're destroying their home, if you're cutting down the trees and stuff, they're gonna die and they're gonna go extinct on us. Next is the shortage of food. See, shortage of food, when we're talking about the deforestation, mainly occurs in the tribal areas which are completely dependent upon the forests for the sake of their livelihood. Okay, next is the flooding of rivers. Obviously, it's quite obvious, there's the flooding of rivers. Okay, for example, imagine this is the river, and like imagine there are two rivers. Okay, and one river will have a lot of trees surrounding it. Okay, like this, one river is going to have a lot of trees surrounding it, and another river is just like flowing and there are a lot of houses surrounding it. There is like no particular river. Okay, but there are like houses which are surrounding it. What will happen if there is excess water in the river number A? There will be nothing stopping the water and it'll just go and flood the entire area. But if excess water comes in the river B, the trees which are standing on the onto the banks of the rivers, they'll withhold with the excess water. They'll try and stop the excess water because they're standing in the pathway. Okay, but the homes which are present near the river A will be completely destroyed. So there are multiple type of consequences of the deforestation. You can add more on your own and let me know, and if not me, if I'm not your teacher, you can let your teacher know, okay, for the assigned class. Next is the conservation of forest and wildlife. We'll be learning more about the conservation of forest and wildlife in the next sessions as well, in the upcoming sessions as well. But for the time being, we can go ahead with how the government has taken up a few steps for the sake of conservation of wildlife and forest. We have three type of structures which are constructed by the government. We have the biosphere reserve, national park, and wildlife sanctuaries. Now it is very important for you to understand the differences between the both. Also, the examples of all the three different type of structures or the establishment is of utmost priority. The examples are always asked in the Olympiad exams. Okay, and if you mention a lot of examples, they are going to help in increasing a lot of your numbers. Okay, so moving with the national parks, first of all. Oh, sorry, we have the biosphere reserve, right? Okay, so moving with the biosphere reserve, first of all, biosphere reserve is the area which are very very protected on the first note, and they are the ones which help in the tribals to survive as well. Biosphere reserves are large areas, they are protected, and they allow the tribes, the government allow the tribes, different tribes to live in these biosphere reserves. Now, see, normal people are not allowed to go and visit the biosphere reserves like a park. Okay, they're not allowed. Rather, the biosphere reserves, they basically help in the survival of the tribal people, because the tribal people know how to live with the nature. Okay, they do not ever harm the nature. That being said, biosphere reserves uh, basically are allowed to have very approved practices which are only passed on by the government. For example, let's say if you want to do something in the biosphere reserve, you'll have to ask the permission of the government to carry out that particular activity. Okay, on top of that, we have multiple on top of that, we have multiple biosphere reserves. We have the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, the Simli-Pali Biosphere Reserve, Great Nicobar Biosphere Reserve, Panchmarahi Biosphere Reserve. Okay, so the major thing that you'll have to do is the learn the examples of all of those. Okay, next to that, we have the national parks. National parks are the reserved area for the wildlife. Okay, all of those are the areas for which are reserved for the wildlife, but they are also used by the people to visit. Okay, they can be used. They could be actually, let's say, a bigger attraction for the tourists or visitors to come there. Okay, on top of that, there are several areas in the national parks itself, in the national park itself, which are not allowed for the tourists to visit as well. Okay. Next thing, We have multiple national parks, for example the Corbett National Park, or Kanha National Park, Kaziranga National Park. So you'll also have to learn what kind of national park is famous for which kind of organism. For example, if we talk about the Corbett National Park, it is situated in Madhya Pradesh, and it is very much famous for the tiger and the Barasingha deer. Okay, so that being said, I'll be moving forward to the last wildlife sanctuary. Wildlife sanctuaries are the areas where the animals are protected from any disturbances to them or their habitat. So, in the wildlife sanctuaries, we do not have any. Let's say we do not have any kind of permission to carry out the poaching or to carry out the different kind of killing of the animals, which obviously is not allowed in any kind of these areas, but it is like strictly prohibited in the wildlife sanctuaries. Also, wildlife sanctuaries are allowed for the visitors to go ahead and have a look at the organisms. It also kind of let's say contributes towards the economy of the nation. Also, there are multiple wildlife sanctuaries and multiple national parks and biosphere reserves which are present in India. Okay, also wildlife sanctuary, if I talk about wildlife sanctuary, we have like number of wildlife sanctuaries. We have the Barren Island Wildlife Sanctuary, Bluff Island Wildlife Sanctuary, we have Flat Island Wildlife Sanctuary, Girha National Park is also there, right? So we have multiple type of wildlife sanctuaries all across the India. And the wildlife sanctuaries, we have the largest wildlife sanctuary, which is called as the Kaziranga National Park is like the largest wildlife sanctuary in the India. Although it do sound like I'm taking the name of the national park here, but it also is a part of conserving the different kind of animals. Anyway, you should also know that apart from these initiatives which are taken by the government, we can also on our behalf help in the conservation of forest and wildlife by planting more and more trees, by helping the deceased animals, or by helping the injured animals on our behalf, right? This is a very generalized chapter, and this chapter will be like super easy for you guys to learn. Okay, now I have some questions for you. What is the clearing of the forest is referred to? Deforestation, right? Because we are like clearing the forest. I did give you the entire definition over it. Deforestation leads to what? Increase in the temperature of earth, imbalance of oxygen and carbon dioxide, increase in the rainfall. It for sure does not lead to the increase in rainfall, but both the A and B, right? Next, we have which of the following gases needed for the plants to photosynthesize? I mean, for example, we have been learning this starting from class 4th. So I think you guys know carbon dioxide is required. And that is all for today. I'll be seeing you in the next class. Stay tuned. And we'll be finishing this chapter very shortly. So take care. Bye bye, guys. Stay safe. Have fun. Study a lot.